Good evening, folks. This is Mike coming at you with another video on Precalculus. In the previous video, we talked about inverse trig functions and how to find values of the inverse trig functions. In this video, I want to quickly wrap up this chapter, and I just want to talk about one small topic that is related to what we talked about actually a couple videos back. So earlier on in this chapter, we saw a major application of trig functions, using sine, cosine, and tangent to solve real-world problems like distances from things, heights of things, all that good stuff. We use those to essentially solve right triangles, but the other use of trig functions I want to talk about is in simple harmonic motion. Maybe you recall this from the previous school you were at, high school, some other science course, whatever it may be. If you have a mass attached to a spring and you pull that spring down or you pull it out, and then you let that spring move based on gravity and the force of that mass that you have on the end of your spring, then that object is moving in a particular kind of motion, and that motion is called simple harmonic motion. So an object is moving, or which is moving along a coordinate axis, is in simple harmonic motion if its distance d from the origin is given by an equation of one of these two forms here. A times the cosine of omega t, or a times the sine of omega t. Once again, that is omega. That is not the letter W. Recall then that amplitude is the absolute value of A. The period is 2 pi over omega. But the new term that I want to introduce here is the frequency. The frequency is how many cycles does this thing go through per unit time. And the frequency of an object in simple harmonic motion in this case is simply omega over 2 pi, or 1 over your period. So to determine the frequency of the object, how many cycles it goes through per second, all you have to do is take the period, which we already know how to find, and you find the reciprocal of it, or you flip it, and that gets you your frequency. Now, technically, we could have plus or minus some other constants inside of our trig functions here. That is possible, but for the most part, it is going to be something of one of these two forms. So just as a couple quick sample problems here, find the amplitude, period, phase shift, and frequency of each of the following. First one up, f of t is equal to 5 times the sine of 7t plus 1. Amplitude, absolute value of the constant in front of your trig function, or 5. Period, 2 pi over b, the number that's in front of your variable, so 2 pi over 7. The phase shift, again, if there's a plus here, then your C value is going to be negative. If there's a minus here, your C value is going to be positive. So it's plus 1, which means your C value is negative 1, divided by B, divided by that 7. So negative 1/7. And then the frequency, the one new thing here, we said to find your frequency, just take your period and find the reciprocal of it. And the reciprocal of that is 7 over 2 pi. So really easy, pretty straightforward here to find your frequency. Try the second one on your own here. Find amplitude, phase shift, period, and frequency for this function right here. Minus 6 times the cosine of 3 pi t. So press pause and find those answers. Once you think you have the answer, press play, and let's see if you are correct. All right, so let's see if you got the following correct answers. Your amplitude was 6, your period was 2/3, your phase shift was 0, and your frequency was 3/2. Absolute value of the -6 in front gives you your +6 for the amplitude. Period, 2 pi over 3 pi, or 2/3. Flip that gets you your frequency of 3/2. And then our phase shift is 0 because we're not adding or subtracting any constant onto the end here. So it's just 0 over 3 pi, and that gives us 0. So there we go, guys. That's just what I wanted to finish off this video here with, just introducing the concept of frequency and just stating one more application of these trig functions that we have in the real world. In the next video, we continue on with Chapter 6, and we get into verifying trig identities. If you have any questions or comments, please be sure to reach out to me, guys. Send me emails, send me texts, send me postcards, whatever you have to do. Otherwise, until the next video, take it easy, guys.